Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pooja Malik, and on behalf of TERI and Bloomberg Philanthropies, I would like to welcome you all to be the part of today's thematic session titled Evidence-Based Action Planning to Achieve Clean Air. As most of us are aware, air pollution is one of the most pressing public health and environmental health challenges in India and around the world. One of the key steps to manage air quality of a city is to prepare a scientifically backed city-specific clean air action plan, and it is also one of the objectives of National Clean Air Program. Aligning with the said objective, in today's session, we are going to share the findings of source apportionment studies done by TERI, WRI and CSTEP in Surat and Bangalore. Further into the session, we will be discussing national and international experiences of air quality management with our esteemed panelists. Without any further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General, TERI, to kickstart today's event with her welcoming remarks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Pooja, and for introducing the topic. I suppose in Delhi, every morning, every Delhiite perhaps feels the pinch that air is not clean. And therefore, I am so delighted to participate in this thematic session on evidence-based action planning to achieve clean air, something which we all dream of. With a dual focus on research and outreach, TERI is well positioned to lead this interesting and thought-provoking initiative on cutting air pollution. I welcome Dr. Prashant Gargava, Member Secretary, Central Pollution Control Board, Ms. Priya Shankar, India Director, Climate and Environment Program, Bloomberg Philanthropies, Dr. Ajay Pandya, Advisor, Surat Municipal Corporation, Dr. D.M. Thakkar, Deputy Environmental Engineer, Gujarat Pollution Control Board, Dr. Ashok Ghosh, Chairman, Bihar Pollution Control Board, Mr. Sant Timaya, Chairman, Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, Dr. Jay Chandran, Mr. Kailash Mukherjee, and all the distinguished speakers who have graced this session of WSTS 2022. I'm sure all the participants will be greatly benefited from the insightful perspective that will be put forth during this session by experts. Air pollution has become a major concern in fast-growing economies like India due to dynamically changing energy scenarios, increased fossil fuel consumption, and rapid urbanization. It is the cost of development which we all are paying. Pandemic was very bad, but then pandemic has also shown us what the clean air means, what clear skies, clear blue skies are. And therefore, it has also in a way rejuvenated in each one of us. Let's aspire to have a much cleaner day. And the World Air Quality Report 2020, 22 of the world's 30 most polluted cities are in India. So that's an alarming sign that we are not doing things in the proper way. And not only that, if we look at the development, it really speaking, we still have to take many more steps. We are still developing. And therefore, if we continue on the existing path, perhaps the air will be not of the quality in which we want our children to live in. And therefore, it is extremely important to develop scientifically proven ways of combating air pollution. And to tackle this level of air pollution in the country, Government of India has launched the National Clean Air Action Plan, NCAP, and has identified 132 non-attainment cities across India which has consistently violated national ambient air quality standards for PM10 for 5 years. Surat and Bangalore are identified as two of the non-attainment cities of Gujarat and Karnataka respectively. TERI and WRI has developed Clean Air Action Plan for the city of Surat and C-STEP has developed a plan for Bangalore on the basis of source apportionment study. The reports bring out the contribution of different sources. See, you can only clean it when you know what is the main source towards air pollution in both these cities. And we do hope that these findings will serve as a guide for policymakers in taking sector-specific interventions and prepare a roadmap for taking immediate and long-term air quality improvements. Furthering to the thematic session, current gaps and limitations in air quality management plan in different Indian cities and key interventions to be focused for improvement in air quality in medium and short term will be discussed. I'd like to thank first of all Bloomberg because of their continuous interest in countries like us that we should really, because air is one, it doesn't have international boundaries, and therefore it's responsibility of every citizen on the planet to ensure that air in the neighborhood is as clean as their own country or cleaner. So thank you, Priya, thank you for your team and my colleagues in TERI who are working in this important area, and otherwise WRI and C-STEP for initiating this much needed work. In fact, every November in Delhi, we all wake up with burning of Parali, and then the question asked most of the times is, what do we do all through the year? We only wake up in the month of October or November. And therefore, this kind of work will be extremely important. City-based air pollution, how to control that will be extremely important. So thank you and best of luck.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful remarks. It truly sets the tone of this event. Going ahead, I would like to welcome Dr. Prashant Gargava, Member Secretary, Central Pollution Control Board, to kindly deliver the inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Dr. Pandya, Dr. Ghosh, Mr. Timaya, another distinguished panelists, experts, and participants. I am very delighted to be participating in this very relevant and important event. I have been part of WS discussions, these summits in the past as well. So I'm really delighted, to be amongst you this year as well. Then I'm also delighted, to be part of discussion, which is not only my job, my mandate, but also a subject which is very close to the heart. So thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Now let me take you through some very relevant milestones of the past. Starting with early 2000, when by the order of Honorable Supreme Court, CNG-based public transportation was introduced in Delhi. All the buses, DTC buses, were converted to CNG. And then everyone felt that now air pollution has come to an end. It provided much relief in terms of buses which otherwise were emitting a lot of smoke, visible smoke, giving me a sense that air is extremely polluted, without having adequate measurements even. It provided much relief in terms of health improvement on account of diesel particulates, the soot going away from the atmosphere. But this lasted for only a few years, maybe 2, 3 or 4 years time. And then the air pollution levels were back to the normal. We had standards only for PM10, if I talk about particular matter in those years. PM 2.5 was introduced in 2009. So in 2000, early 2000, we only had PM 10, and therefore data also were also only for PM 10. Now this vehicle control measures by way of introducing CNG was primarily addressing PM 2.5, which was a fraction of PM 10. And then little did we realize that there are many other sources which are contributing to PM 10. Why I'm giving reference to these past milestones to understand as to how relevant the context of today's discussion is. Then in 2010, when we did famous 6-city source apportionment studies, first time the understanding went beyond only identifying vehicles and industries as key sources. First time we realized that it is dust, road dust or construction activities or gensets, or even the secondary particles coming from sulfur dioxide as precursor, power plant being the major source. So, other sources also were first time brought into the air quality issues and action planning. Till then, our action plan was either on the basis of perception or limited understanding, limited scientific studies or data or analysis. So 2010 gave us, altogether different outlook as far as action planning or identification of sources were concerned. First time we were able to, get quantitative contribution or different source categories, so that we could prioritize depending, based on the limited resources that we had that time. Then in 2015, Air Quality Index was launched. That created a lot of awareness among people. There was demand from cities, demand from people for cleaner air, while actions were being taken, but then focused actions primarily targeting improving air quality in cities and towns was missing. In 2019, rightly, National Clean Air Program was launched, as also discussed by Dr. Dhawan. It's a very comprehensive strategy, bringing in convergence from resources, efforts, steps at various levels by various departments and ministries, actions at city level, actions at state level, actions at central government level, actions taken by various line ministries, be it Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, or petroleum, natural gas, or housing and urban development, renewable energy. So all these efforts, which were otherwise also being made by various stakeholders, there was a convergence to this National Clean Air Program. 132 non-attainment cities, we had gone for city-specific plans. Now, there is an expert group which critically examines these plans, essentially to understand whether there is any evidence for the sources, their contribution, and then actions to address those sources are there or not. These 132 cities have different levels of information. Some cities we already had source apportionment, some understanding of the sources, their contribution. Some cities we had limited data, either in the form of emission inventory or some rough emission estimates. Somewhere we did not have anything, but learning from other cities' experiences, and we decided we should start and then taking actions, prepare action plans, and then as and when we have more evidence coming in, these plans could be further refined. And therefore, all these 132 cities source apportionment studies were commissioned. You will get the details, from CPCB website or from my team. More than 50 cities, I understand. Around 30 cities, the studies have already been completed, and for all remaining, cities, work is at different stages of progress. So the point that I'm trying to say is that, starting with 2000 CNG experience to 2010, and now going to city level planning. In fact, all these 132 cities now are also preparing micro plans. identification of hotspots for each of the activities, each of the action points, at city level, across the city, in which area, what is to be done, those kind of micro detailing is also being done now. So therefore, I must compliment, TERI and also Bloomberg. Ms. Priya Shankar is there. Good to see you again here. And I'm delighted that you take, you're so keen, you take so much of interest, in discussing these issues of improving air quality in Indian cities and towns. So thank you very much for that, Priya. So beyond this micro plan now, we are continuously working. There is a portal now through which we are going to track all the actions, the physical progress that is done by the cities, and then continuously record the air quality measurements. So not only this action planning is based on evidence, now we are trying to ensure that the impact also, is evidence based. Starting with your air quality measurement, data should start showing improvement, and then there should be perception also. If people feel that there is little congestion, if there is no smoky vehicle running on the roads, that also is sort of evidence that actions are being taken, and then impacts are happening on positive direction. And then finally, linking it to the health impact based. There has to be at the end evidence showing clearly that air quality has improved, and therefore health of the people also have enhanced in terms of reduction in number of hospitalization, in terms of number of people getting affected or having elements coming from air pollution and sources. So I think this is extremely important, and I see a very bright panel over here, and sure that in these 2 days there will be a lot of deliberations, and with this new perspective and effective partnership, better understanding, coming through this summit, this will lead to better innovative solutions which can give results in quicker and much faster time frame to achieve our vision of having clean air all across the nation, particularly in cities where you already have higher pollution levels. So with this, I once again thank you for giving me this opportunity, and all the very best for the deliberations and learnings in the next 2 days. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Gargava. It was truly enlightening address. We will now move on to the next session, in which we are going to share the findings of source apportionment studies done by TERI, WRI, and CPCB in Surat and Bangalore. Going ahead, I would like to invite Dr. Anju Goel to share the findings of the study on source apportionment study for the city of Surat. Over to you, Dr. Goel.
I would like to share my screen as well.
Pooja, I just wanted to check with you, when are you going to take the photograph?
I am taking the screenshots, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to share the findings of the study that we have recently carried out on the source apportionment for the Surat, which is a city of Gujarat. So the major objective of the conduct the source apportionment study of particulate matter consisting of both PM10 as well as for the PM2.5 using receptor as well as the dispersion modeling technique. Further, we have projected the emissions for future under the different control options to identify the effective intervention strategies for control. On the basis of the analysis, we have suggested strategies for strengthening the air quality action plan for the city of Surat. This is a broad approach for the source apportionment that is being followed in the study. So broadly, we have carried out dispersion modeling exercise and the receptor modeling exercise to arrive at the source contributions, and thereafter future projections has been carried out and the intervention analysis is being performed to formulate the clean air action plan. These are the locations where the ambient air quality monitoring has been carried out to collect the samples for the receptor modeling, exercise. So we have carried out monitoring at 2 residential locations, 1 background location, 2 industrial location, 1 commercial location, and 1 curbside location. This is a geographical map showing the different locations where the monitoring is being carried out. Thereafter, extensive primary surveys are being conducted both at the city as well as at the district scale to prepare the emission inventory. And here I am presenting the result of the emission inventory that we have estimated on the basis of primary surveys for the different pollutants. Looking at the emission inventory, it is clearly, it clearly indicates that both at the city as well as at the district scale, we can identify 3 major sources which are contributing to the particulate matter pollution. So these sources are basically road dust, transport, and industry. These are the source identification on the basis of emissions. So after preparing emission inventory and doing carrying out the ambient air quality monitoring, so the monitored samples were further chemically characterized to basically see what is there in those samples. And on the basis of the source profiles, receptor model was run. And by using the emission inventory and the meteorological information, dispersion modeling was performed. And here I am presenting the results of dispersion modeling as well as the receptor modeling, showing the source contributions in PM10 and PM2.5 concentrations during winter season, which is considered as a worst season for the ambient air quality for the city of Surat. And here we can clearly see that in case of a PM2.5 through both the techniques, industry came out to be one of the major source contributing to the PM2.5 pollution in Surat city. That is being followed by transport and the residential sector. While in case of a PM10, again industry is one of the major contributor, followed by the road dust, resuspension, transport and residential sector. So once we have analyzed the source contribution for the base year, which is 2019 for this study, so we started to look at the different like projections of the trajectories of the different sectors, how we can project them, and the different government policies which are already in place. So apart from estimating the contributions, we have also estimated the geographical contributions. So here the results shows that both in case of a PM2.5 and in PM10 concentrations, there is a majority of the contribution comes from outside the district, and Surat city itself contribute ranging from 17 to 22% only in PM2.5 and PM10 concentrations within the city. So it clearly indicates that we need to follow the airshed management approach instead of only like a city scale management approach. So here the table basically shows that different growth rates being used for the different sectors and the different controls that are being assumed in the BAU scenario. On the basis of the controls and the sectoral growth rates, the emissions are being projected for the 2 future years, for the year 2025 and for the year 2030. And here the graph on the left hand side shows the emissions, while the graph on the right hand side shows the concentrations. So we can clearly see that PM10 2.5 and SO2 emissions, they are increased by 56%, 34% and 40%, while the NOx emissions will decrease by 5%. This is primarily because of the introduction of a BS6 norms in the transport sector, and transport is one of the major contributor in the NOx emissions. Here the graph on the right hand side shows the concentration, and it clearly shows that irrespective of the season, we are not going to meet the PM10 and 2.5, the daily national ambient air quality standards for PM10 and PM2.5. It clearly shows that whatever is being currently planned, it's not enough, and definitely we need to have a much more intervention and a strategic interventions in order to achieve the daily national ambient air quality standards. So here I want to show the sectoral contributions in future. So here the graph represents the sectoral contribution in the concentration in the year 2030 for PM10 and PM2.5. We can clearly see here, based on the concentration in future, industry and the road dust and other sector comes out to be major sectors. While in future we envisage that the share of the transport and the residential sector will go down with the influx of the BS6 vehicles and the LPG for cooking. So we have tested out almost 20 interventions in different sectors to select some of the interventions in the sectors to formulate the alternate scenarios. And here the table represents those specific interventions which were selected based on the extensive intervention analysis for the creation of alternate scenarios. So again, in alternate scenarios, we have created two types of scenarios. One is a alt Surat district, which basically represents a situation when the mentioned interventions would be implemented only in the district. The second scenario, which is alt Surat airshed scenario, represents a condition when the selected interventions would be implemented not only in the district, rather in the whole airshed. So we can clearly see here, if we will implement the interventions in the whole airshed region, we will be able to meet daily national ambient air quality standards for PM10 in the year 2025 itself in the Surat city. While in case of a PM 2.5, if we will implement all the interventions at the airshed level, only then we will be able to meet the daily national ambient air quality standards, and that too in the year 2030. So it clearly indicates that we need to follow airshed management approach while we are planning, while we are making clean air action plans at the city scale. So the key takeaways from the study are: effective air quality management is definitely need of the hour, and source apportionment is an integral part of the air quality management. Definitely we need to prioritize the sources which needs to be tackled, and source apportionment helps in doing that. Regular updation of the source apportionment results is very important. This could be done either on a real-time basis or at least at an interval of 3 years to take into account the growth patterns or the impact of the measures taken. And as I've already mentioned, like airshed approach needs to be there to tackle the pollution. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share the findings.
Thank you for sharing the study findings with us, Dr. Goel. May I now request Dr. Ajay Nagpure, Head Air Quality World Resources Institute, to share the findings of the study on Clean Air Action Plan of Surat. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Pooja. So I have 10 minutes, so I will try to just highlight the key points of the Clean Air Action Plan. So let me start with this. Yeah. So I think Surat Clean Air Action Plan we developed with the help of Bloomberg Philanthropy, TERI, Surat Pollution Control Board, Surat Municipal Corporation. So first of all, I would like to thank TERI and their team for developing a source apportionment study and these emission inventories. So the first slide is from TERI. Here you can see that, as mentioned by Anju, like what are the major sources contributing to the air pollution. So we first analyzed the emission inventory and the source apportionment study data provided by the TERI to us. Then after that, that I think because since we are working on the clean air action plan for a clean air action strategies. So what we did for that, we chose a sector-based approach. When I say sector-based approach, so that when most of the time we as a scientist, we come up with some kind of intervention, some kind of strategies for the different sectors. But I feel that before implementing or before suggesting any intervention on the ground, it is very important to understand the perspectives of the stakeholders and actors associated with the different sectors. So for that, for each sector which we have identified from this emission inventory and source apportionment study, first we discussed the problems of the stakeholders and actors as directly or indirectly associated with each sector. The picture which you are seeing on your screen, it's I think most of the people sitting or standing here belongs to the solid waste management sector in the Surat city. And these ladies are the rag pickers, So we call each and every of them. We asked their views, what are their challenges, what are the opportunities, and we then further discussed the air pollution problem with them. And this discussion was very fruitful, and we got very positive response from these steps of discussion. So for each sector, we followed the similar approach. So after this stakeholders and actor consultation, we then in detail we study the sectors first. I think by a different approach. For example, I'm giving one example for the municipal solid waste burning. So for municipal solid waste burning, our researchers visited or conducted a survey at the micro level and the different neighborhoods of a Surat city and identify the hotspots where the most of the waste burning is happening. And then after that, we develop some kind of that area, the hotspots map, which now and we provided that maps to the Surat Municipal Corporation. And I think it's very interestingly now these days we are directly working with Surat Municipal Corporation on those areas where we identify the waste burning hotspots. So based on these types of like scientific evidence, stakeholder consultations, and the micro level understanding of a sector, we develop a different strategies now which we are trying to apply by the help of municipal corporation and other stakeholders. So this is the example of one sector. Another example which I would like to give for the construction sector. I think this is very important, and as said by Anju, that construction or road dust is one of the major source of air pollution in city. So therefore, for that, what we did, we first call or most of the people belongs to or associated with the construction sector, and we asked about their problem, their challenges, and what they are thinking about the air pollution. Unfortunately, I think the construction people, the people who are working on the construction sector, they asked us for develop a clean construction guideline. And I think with the help of these construction people, we develop for India's first clean construction handbook, where each and every type of regulation associated with the construction activities, also the good practices for the clean construction is available. So this is the construction guideline. We help with the help of CREDI, the organization who I think for the construction industry. And I think the next step is I think another good example. After developing this construction handbook, what happened? So the CREDI has distributed these copies of this construction handbook to the most of their members. I would say like thousands of their members, at least 1,000 members. They distributed this construction handbook to them. So in this construction handbook, we are providing most of the regulation, norms, and the good practices. And after that, we also conducted the primary level survey to identify the areas where most of the construction activities are happening. And for I think so this kind of map, the micro level map, which I think Bhargava sir was talking about, the micro area action plan. So the micro level action plan now I think we also developed with the Surat Municipal Corporation, and at the ward level we provided each activity of each sector, and now we are trying to deploy or apply the measures which we have suggested in the clean air action plan and we are working with the municipal corporation and other stakeholders to follow those strategies on the ground. Another important thing which I would like to highlight here from this which came out from this clean air action plan. So when we were working with these construction people, I think they are very happy with and they want to cooperate for the mitigating the air quality. And now they want to show how we can apply the mitigation approach on the ground. So now they are providing us some construction sites where they are asking us to show these mitigation strategies on the ground, so they can show it to the other members of their industry, and it would I think it would also encourage them. And also it would provide a database, that there is a perception that these kind of measures are very expensive or so many other things. So that's what I think now we are working with the construction people on ground, where we are applying most of the air pollution mitigation strategies from the beginning of the construction activity to the end of the building construction. That is what we are doing for the construction sector. Other than that, for the cleaner fuel. So, that I think recently there is a lot of improvement in the clean air energy, especially in the household sector. But one thing which we identify in Surat, and Surat in most of the cities, or I would say rural and urban area of India, if you see the most of the recent data sets, you would find that a lot of people are even the LPG users are using a biomass as a secondary fuel. And that is responsible for air pollution. Anyway, I think there are, because of the methodology limitation or database gap, we are not able to capture those things. So that's what I think in Surat we first identify the percentage of the household are using biomass as a secondary fuel. So that the measures, the policy we would, I think with the stakeholders and the policymakers and regulators, we are going to highlight first those users because those are the easy users because they already have LPG in their households. So that's what we are doing for our household sector. And I think we are working on different level of strategies on the ground, which we have suggested in the construction and a clean action plan for the household sector. And other than that, we are also working with the industry sector, and for industry sector, now we are doing these energy audits. We are trying to identify like how we can improve the energy efficiency and reduce the air pollution. And we are working with the MSME organization, and they are fortunately following I think they are working hand to hand with us for each and every strategies which we have suggested for the construction, industry sector. The last thing which I would like to highlight here is the restaurants and eateries. This is, I think, I would say in India, this is one of the most unrecognized sector. So for those sectors also, we conducted surveys in different wards, and we try to identify where are the areas where most of the restaurants and eateries are using biomass as for their purpose. So now I think we are also trying to, we are in a communication with these people to develop some kind of business strategies or the innovative strategies to mitigate the air pollution from their sectors. So this is how we are working on Surat, and with this slide I would stop. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Nagpure, for sharing the study finding with us. I will now request Dr. Pratima Singh, Head of the Center of Air Pollution Studies, CISTEP, to share the findings of the study on emission inventory and source apportionment of Bangalore. Over to you, Dr. Singh.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you so much. I thank TERI for providing this platform and Bloomberg and Shakti for supporting us to carry out this study. I'm going to share my slide here.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So, as Dr. Prashant Gargava had mentioned that in 2010, 6 cities had carried out emission inventory and source apportionment city, and Bangalore was one of those cities. However, we had to look at what are the newer sources. So I'll talk about that in detail. Just giving a glimpse, CSTEP is a not-for-profit organization working in the sector of policy making, looking at scientific evidence. And we basically look at policy interventions within lens of monitoring, modeling, and techno-economic assessments. So talking about Bangalore City, we all know that it's one of the metropolitan city in the country and was known as the Garden City of India, but now it literally resembles like a concrete jungle. And it has been increasing in a way that we cannot imagine. It has been identified as one of the non-attainment cities under the National Clean Air Program. Just to share the population growth till 2021, it's increasing. There's no saturation in terms of the population growth, and same is for the vehicles also. The number of vehicles that we have, the two-wheeler category, it's huge. Here, if you can look at the land cover map, in 2001, you can see the built-up area was limited only to the central part, but now it has expanded all over the Bangalore city. It's beyond or almost to the boundary area and beyond. So we can understand how the infrastructure has developed over the years. So for this emission inventory and source apportionment study under the leadership of Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, we carried out an emission inventory at a resolution of 1 by 1 kilometer grid, where we collected data from all the line departments under the leadership of Department of Forest and Environment. And for the source apportionment study, we used Karnataka State Pollution Control Board's infrastructure of 13 manual monitoring stations and collected around 3,000 samples, where we looked at the 3 seasons in a year. And based on all the scientific evidence that was generated, we ran the dispersion and the receptor model to suggest the action plan for the city. So this is the boundary area that we have considered. It's a 60 by 60 kilometer area, way beyond the municipal boundary, BBMP boundary that we have. And we can see all the wards and the zones for the Bangalore City. So we were able to identify the hotspots within the city and look at the challenging sectors and suggest measures accordingly. And these are the sites we can see where the manual stations are, from which the air samples were collected, which were categorized into curbside, industrial, sensitive, and residential. The method, as I mentioned, we looked at an extensive emission inventory with dispersion model, and for source apportionment, we looked at the CMB model, and then finally provided the strategies required for the state. Apart from the primary data, we also collected a lot of survey data, where for the domestic and commercial sector, we saw that, as Dr. Nagpure also mentioned, that though citizens had LPG connection, they tend to use wood and coal. So similarly, in our study also, we found that a lot of wood and coal, and though kerosene is banned, kerosene was observed in the study. And this is very specific wards where a lot of the solid fuel is being used. And we also looked at the income area, and these are mostly slum areas which are non-authorized. So we definitely need to deep delve into these areas and look what are the challenges and why is it happening on ground. For the transportation sector, we looked at the vintage, and most of the vehicles were fairly younger in age. However, there are vehicles which are with a vintage of more than 10 years. And there are diesel vehicles and diesel auto rickshaws also plying in the city, for which interventions are definitely suggested. And as I mentioned, two-wheeler is around 68%, which is huge. Though high commercial vehicles are only 2%, but later on we will see that their concentration level that they are emitting, it's huge, emission load, sorry. So from the emission inventory study, we found that transportation is the major sector contributing to the total emission load, followed by road dust, and CND dust also contributes hugely to the city. And this is huge. As we know, the infrastructure is developing a lot of, road infrastructure work is also going on. And as the city is growing, we could map out that the construction area that has increased in last 5 years, it's huge, and it's contributing. It's 11% is a major contribution. We can see here that when we plotted the results on a 1 by 1 kilometer grid, we could clearly see how the PM10, PM2.5 NOx were visible. We can see that this is a major ring road that is highlighted towards the airport. And the hotspots are clearly visible in the commercial areas, the IT hubs, and everywhere. So this gave us a very good understanding on what the areas are. Here we can look at, this is a Pina industrial area, which has come out very nicely in the emission inventory study. Also, we looked at when we looked at the source apportionment study, we try to analyze the various categories: residential, sensitive, curbside, and industries. And for PM 2.5, we saw that the sensitive areas had a really low concentration levels. However, the industrial area had, at the annual PM was fairly high for the PM 2.5, and same was observed for PM 10 in terms of low sensitive area had a low concentration, but the curbside also had a high annual PM 10. It is these two are fairly attributed to the transportation and the traffic congestion that's happening in that area. Moreover, we can also see that when we did a seasonal analysis, summer season, the concentration levels were really high compared to monsoon season. Monsoon was the least polluting season, and as Bangalore is also blessed with good rainfalls, it also helps in reducing the concentration levels. Apart from that, when we did chemical analysis, this also highlighted very nicely that the summer season, the total chemical characterization, the total load was really high in the season of summer, where organic carbon, they captured the share in a very high way. Apart from this, we also found out that elemental carbon sulfates were also high, again attributing to transportation sector, a lot of leaf burning and wood burning that was observed in this season. Further, looking at the PM source contribution, transportation came out to be having a high share in PM 2.5, and soil dust and construction dust had a high share in the PM 10. We could see that the fuel oil was, found in the industrial sector, looking at the type of fuel that is being used here. In the PM10 also, the fuel oil contribution was seen. We also found traces of coal that was being used in the commercial and the eateries, which is quite prominent. Apart from this, as I mentioned, transportation here also came out to be the largest share in the source apportionment study, along with road dust. And DG sets and the secondary pollutants also had some significant share in this study. Furthermore, once we had understanding on the emission and the source contribution, we carried out scenario analysis to understand how the various action will help Bangalore to reduce the emission level. So for PM 2.5, if we still, go in the business as usual scenario, our emission load is going to increase. However, we had three scenarios: least emission reduction, medium emission reduction, high emission reduction. So under high emission reduction scenario till 2024, we are going to reduce emission by 25% if we adopt the strategies of the Cleaner Action Plan. Furthermore, we saw that for PM10, if under BAU scenario, if we do not do anything, follow the same procedure and the regulations, our emissions are going to increase by 25%. But under high emission reduction scenario, we will be able to reduce emissions by 21%. Furthermore, we prepared a timeline and an implementation strategy for transportation and road dust sector, where we looked at EV buses, phasing out of two-stroke autos and even the buses, and how it will help us to reduce the emissions and what would be the cost incurred by the government for these. I'm not going to talk in detail about this. Similarly, we prepared a strategy for the domestic and DG sets also, where we mentioned that we need to have a higher penetration of LPG connection and provide improved cook stoves, and also look at interrupted power supply to reduce the uses of DG sets, because DG sets contribute around 9% in the total emission load of the Bangalore city. Hence, looking at the renewable sector would be really helpful for replacing the DG sets. So some of the recommendations that we have provided here are for the transport, road dust, all the sectors that we looked at, that The heavy commercial vehicles, though they are only contributing, the share is 3.3%, but their concentration, the load that they are contributing is around 84%. Hence, we need to look at heavy commercial vehicles that are deployed by the government agencies, municipal bodies for collecting solid waste, like the dumpers and the collectors. And the buses, they need to be converted to cleaner fuel. Similarly, the diesel cars that are plying in the Bangalore, they also need to be shifted to cleaner fuel. Hence, we have suggested that we need to shift to EVs or CNG that will help to reduce PM emission by 25%. Similarly, road dust contributed around 17 to 51%, and here we have suggested that either we go to end-to-end road paving that BBMP has started implementing, and use of geosynthetics for covering the green belt so that the dust emission is reduced. For the construction, we had mentioned that there are a lot of vehicles, the heavy duty vehicles that are plying, which carry construction materials, they need to be scrapped out, which are older than 15 years. And for the domestic, we need to literally look at the ward levels, the areas where people are still using wood and coal, provide them subsidies, help them to shift to cleaner technologies, LPG. And similarly, for industries is mostly out of the BBMP boundary. It's not very prominent, but they contribute hugely to the SOx emissions. So we need to further understand what these industries are, and try to look at the interventions what suggested. And for the DG sets, as we mentioned, that we need to look for uninterrupted power supply so that these DG sets can be replaced, looking at the solar rooftop and cleaner fuel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh, for sharing the study findings and insight with us. With that, we come towards the end of the first session of the event, and I would like to thank all the distinguished panelists for their highly informative sessions. We will now move on to the second session, which focuses on sharing national and international experiences on air quality management. The session will be moderated by Ms. Priya Shankar, India Director, Climate and Environment Program, Bloomberg Philanthropies. May I now request Ms. Priya Shankar to start the proceedings of the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, and thanks to all the panelists who spoke earlier, to Dr. Gargava for joining us today, and to Pratima, Anju, and Ajay, and all the teams at TERI, WRI, and CSTEP that have done the great work on the analysis that they've shared with us today. We have now a really stellar panel. We have Dr. Pandya, who's advisor of the Surat Municipal Corporation, Mr. Thakkar, who is a Deputy Environment Engineer from the Gujarat Pollution Control Board, Dr. Ghosh, who is Chairman of the Bihar Pollution Control Board, Mr. Themaiya, who is Chairman of the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board, Dr. Jayachandran, who is Member Secretary of the Delhi Pollution Control Committee, and Polash Mukherjee, who is the Air Quality Lead at NRDC. So thank you all for joining us. I think we've heard this before, but air quality is just such an important challenge, not only in India, but also globally. And it is a challenge that affects not only the environment, but also public health and economic sustainable development and quality of life. It really has widespread impacts across a number of different areas. And we at Bloomberg Philanthropies are really pleased to be able to work in partnership with this strong consortium of partners that we've heard from earlier today as part of a technical support initiative to the National Clean Air Program, as part of our partnership with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And, we strongly believe that in order to address air pollution, we need strong data and evidence. And these studies have shown that data and evidence on the sources that are causing air pollution. And the two ways that this really happens is through regulatory and policy interventions, and also a change in public behavior and public awareness and understanding and greater demand for clean air. On the policy and regulatory side, we have such a strong representation from the cities and states where some of this work is being discussed. And I'd like to ask questions to each of the panelists, and given the paucity of time, request them to restrict their initial interventions to around 2 to 3 minutes. So Dr. Pandya, I would like to ask you, in Surat, we've heard about this sort of interesting sector-based approach that is being taken, and also some of the main causes of air pollution. On the basis of this information that you now have, what are the actions that Surat is taking to address air pollution in the city?
Yeah, hello everyone. First of all, let me take this opportunity and thank the organizers, especially TERI and Bloomberg, for this initiative. I'll just go a bit offside from what you have asked, and let me start by saying, when we came to know that Surat has been identified as a non-attainment city, this was a very big issue, shock. A city that is the cleanest city, a city that is the best, smartest city in the country, how could be the non-attainment? So when we cross-checked, we came to know, yes, this can be the case. And it brought us to our feet. And thanks to the help of TERI, WRI and Bloomberg's, that we were able to quantify our problem, identify our problem, quantify our problem, and we have got a few suggestions, solutions for this. So as per the suggestions, we are trying to follow up, especially as they have mentioned, what is in the hand of city government. One is construction. So we have taken full effort to have reduce the construction, the pollution that is created by construction waste, by regularizing the construction, using the construction and demolition waste, recycling that, and following the norms of the handbook that WRS has published, asking all the builders, contractors to please follow that. Another sector, that is the transportation sector. So it is always better to preach, before starting preach, we have to practice. So what we have done, we have started converting all our fleet slowly to electric vehicles, non-polluting sectors. That is a major step that we have taken. And as already Nagpure sir has told about, we are very much vigilant about burning of waste, preventing burning of waste. We have made our people, grassroots level people, the Safai Kamdars, that please don't burn the waste. Why? What is the problem in burning the waste? So slowly, we are into the sector. In each and every sector, we are taking actions so that we can prevent or slowly reduce the the pollution that is going in the air. These are some of the steps. Others, when we'll further discussion, we can enter into that.
Thank you, Dr. Pandya, and thank you also for being so brief. And also, yes, I mean, Surat is, as you say, one of the cleanest cities and a smart city, and has shown so much dynamism that I'm sure that with the sort of dynamism that you're bringing, you'll be able to sort of reduce the air pollution and stop being a non-attainment city, following the kind of plans that have been outlined. Maybe just staying on Gujarat for now, we'll ask Mr. Thakur, I guess. There are some areas that the municipal corporation looks after, but there are also a wider number of areas that contribute to air pollution. And just be curious from the perspective of the Pollution Control Board, how you're working at a sort of statewide level on some of these issues with various government departments that look after different sectors. Have we got Mr. Thakur with us? If not, maybe I will move on and ask Dr. Ghosh from the Bihar Pollution Control Board. Bihar was a bit of a pioneer in coming out very early with a evidence-based clean air action plan for Patna. And I wonder how things have progressed since the development of that plan, and if you're actually starting to see some early successes and wins in Bihar since that plan has been developed.
Thank you. Thanks to all the organizers for inviting me for this wonderful discussion. And I'm especially thankful to TERI, Bloomberg, and C-STEP for providing us lots of information through their studies so that we can implement the air quality control action plan in proper perspective. Patna and other cities, non-attainment cities of Bihar like Gaya and Muzaffarpur is slightly different as compared to cities like Surat or Bangalore that we are discussing, because we are located in the Indo-Gangetic plain. And the most serious problem in Indo-Gangetic plain is the dust particle, because the soil is alluvial, very soft soil, and that is very important, and most of the area is rural. Initially, we are focusing only on the towns like Patna, Muzaffarpur, and Gaya, and all the majors were focused. There was city-centric, but through the source apportionment study and other studies, we came to know that only the pollutants are not coming only from the city itself, but from adjoining areas also, the satellite cities and the villages too. So unless we don't focus on the surrounding area, neighborhood area of the city, we cannot control the air pollution in totality, because the air is not divided in compartmentalized like city-wise or village-wise or like that. So many steps we have taken, and the results are now showing. Like in cities, non-attainment cities, we have totally banned the use of the kerosene-driven or petrol-driven three-wheelers. We are promoting the electric vehicles. And government is also giving subsidies for retrofitting of the diesel three-wheelers to that of the CNG or PNG-driven vehicles or e-vehicles. That is one thing that is giving good results. Another thing, just yesterday we have issued notification, I have signed the notification for the total ban of furnace oil and fossil fuel in any area, any industrial area where PNG, CNG connection is in place. We are trying to spread the CNG and PNG connectivity through GAIL and IOC. And we have put this condition that if the CNG pipeline or PNG pipeline is approaching the industrial area, then that industrial area won't use the fossil fuel or the furnace oil. And it is being totally banned. We are given a time frame also, that the maximum time frame for conversion from conventional fuel to the CNG and PNG, all modern fuels, 6 months window. And within that time, they have to convert it. Then rightly said by earlier speaker that one of the problem in rural area is there that although there is a Jola scheme, and through that lots of the gas stoves have been distributed, but despite that, lots of fuel, the lot of biomass burning is there in rural area. So that too has to be controlled, and we are trying to make aware the people about their duties and responsibilities. I always feel that any environmental problem, including air pollution, cannot be successful by only government intervention or intervention by TERI or Bloomberg like that. There has to be people's participation also. Without people's participation, no environmental rule can be implemented in total. And for that, we are undertaking many awareness programs, the workshops for different sectors who are involved with the pollution. And we are hopeful the results are coming up. It is not very fast, but at least as compared to 2018 and 19 and 20, 21 was better year for air, maybe due to COVID also, the movement was less. But we are improving, and we are hopeful in the coming time, more improvements will be seen on ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ghosh. I would now like to ask Mr. Themaiya from the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board. We've seen that one of the major sources that gets identified in Bangalore is transport. And I know that Karnataka and Bangalore have been taking a lot of measures also to address transport pollution. And I wondered if you could tell us a bit more about what you're doing in that field.
Yeah. Good evening, madam. Because of some emergency meeting, actually chairman has to leave office. He is attending another meeting. I am Mahesh, Chief Environmental Officer from Karnataka State Pollution Control Board. On behalf of chairman, I'll be, explaining the initiatives taken for control of pollution in Bangalore and also in the state. Firstly, I would like to thank TERI, Bloomberg, C-STEP, and other, the leading agencies for providing us an opportunity to share our thoughts here and to also learn many things from this kind of, workshops. As far as the, Karnataka state is concerned, in fact, there are 4 non-attainment cities actually. And Bangalore is having population more than 10 lakhs. That is, it is touching 1.3 crores actually. This is considered as million plus city. And other than Bangalore, there are 3 other cities, predominantly in the northern part of Karnataka. They are considered as non-attainment cities. Totally, we have 4 non-attainment cities. Coming to Bangalore, actually, to address air pollution, in fact, a lot of initiatives were taken by the government right from 2003 onwards, actually, because in the background of Honorable Supreme Court direction in MC Mehta versus Union of India case, there was a committee to address the air pollution in Bangalore, actually, along with other 14 cities in the country. Bangalore is one such city. In fact, since 2003, many initiatives like widening of the roads, construction of flyovers, increasing the greenery in the city, and then switching over to metro transport, and then a policy for phasing out of old vehicles in the public sector. The company, especially BMTC, Bangalore Metropolitan Transport Corporation, and also Karnataka State Road Transport Corporations were undertaken. Because of these, initiatives and proper, monitoring of these initiatives from time to time at the highest level, there was a task force committee headed by Chief Secretary, and under him, all the secretaries were made as members, and this task force used to meet on a regular basis and give a lot of instructions for reduction of air pollution in the city level. Because of that reason, in fact, the air pollution, as you could see from the results of air quality monitoring, it was always below 100 as far as the air quality index is concerned, actually. But then, because of the growth of the city and increase in number of vehicles, actually, especially the old vehicles, as we have seen in the previous presentation done by C-STEP, Dr. Pratima Singh, it indicates that the contribution of PM10 from the the transport sector or vehicular sector is around 50% actually. It is having a major share. So to address that issue, in fact, second, the source comes construction and demolition, road dust, all these things follow. So to address this, actually, now we have drawn 44-point action plan involving about 11 departments, and that starts from improving the road infrastructure and also managing the construction demolition waste, then solid waste, and also the improving the the vehicular emission in terms of inducting electric vehicles into public transport. Now, as of now, out of 6,000 odd buses, there are about 50 buses already. They have introduced as electric vehicles, and there is a program to enhance the electric vehicles in terms of its numbers. And of course, metro has come up in the city which has made the air quality to improve actually. So many such programs have been initiated in the city of Bangalore, and at the same time, importance is also given because it's a very important thing when it comes to public outreach programs. A lot of school education programs have been undertaken to educate the people about having a clean air actually. And wherever industrial areas are there, wherever CNG pipeline is running, the pollution control board is promoting CNG or PNG fuel in the industries. So because of all these initiatives, probably I would say when we assess the air quality of Bangalore under the National Clean Air Program from 2019, there is a reduction of about 15% actually during our performance assessment carried out recently, and the Government of India Ministry has also considered that assessment, and then based on this actually they also take certain measures for funding the city. So as we could see, there is biggest challenge is the coordination among the departments and educating the public. This is very, very important. When it comes to the attitude of people, we need to have more number of awareness programs, education programs to understand and make the people that air quality is important, and there is a need to promote the non-motorized vehicles also. And Bangalore has taken a lot of initiatives. One street called Church Street, actually in front of our office, parallel to MG Road, it has been made as a walking road actually, walking street. So only they have taken initiative that the only during non weekends the vehicles are allowed to play on the road. Weekends they restrict the vehicles, and they measured the air quality on this street, and there is a reduction because of these initiatives also. And lot of white topping works are going on in the city so as to improve the road infrastructure, which is again a major source for for the PM10 concentration in the city. So green belt development is another big initiative, and in almost all the open spaces, the government is taking the initiative to increase the green areas. So because of all these initiatives, probably the air quality might have come down. As Sir has said already, Chairman Bihar Pollution Report Sir has said, maybe because of COVID and restriction of vehicles during the COVID period, and also shutting down of industries might have contributed for reduction in particulate matter in the cities also. But then, in order to keep our progress in a sustained way, we need to carry forward whatever we have drawn. We need to monitor the implementation of the action plan. That is the biggest challenge. Educating the departments is the biggest challenge. Make them to understand that the importance of air quality, what does it mean to them, is very, very important. Because the air is not confined to only one department or one agency. It needs to be addressed by all the departments. They need to have a structured program in their own program, so as to see that the air quality issue is addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Mahesh. That's really helpful to hear about the progress that you're making in Bangalore and how you've been trying to tackle this for a number of years. I would also now like to ask Dr. Jayachandran, we haven't heard about this report today, but earlier there was also a study that TERI had done around the cost effectiveness of different air pollution actions in Delhi. And I just wanted to understand from you, I know in a way Delhi has the most sort of experience and longest, I guess, history of tackling this problem, but also it continues to be a persistent challenge also because I think it's a regional problem to some extent. Just wanted to understand what you think are the sort of priority actions that you would identify in terms of really being able to tackle air pollution in Delhi.
Thank you so much, Priya. Eminent panelists and all participants here, a very good evening to all. So Priya, is it possible? I've got a very tiny presentation to just project it. Shall I do that?
I will ask the technical team to confirm. I think if it's very brief, it should be possible.
Yeah, it's brief, yeah.
I think, yes, it is possible, sir. You can present. You can share your screen.
Okay. So is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
So I just quickly went through the presentation, hardly take 3 to 4 minutes, just to for the sake of structured brief. So I mean, these are the major interventions which Delhi has been doing, as Bihar Pollution Control Board chairman rightly told. Bihar and Delhi kind of share the same geographical problem, and they can never be compared with other states like Karnataka or Gujarat because of the maritime influence. And Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Punjab, and Delhi, we suffer from this continental effect, and there's this huge airshed which forms from Afghanistan till West Bengal. So there's a huge geographical disadvantage which North Indian states we kind of harbor. But despite that, when Delhi has been very proactive in terms of basing all its action plans on sound evidence. And we have the strongest network of air quality monitoring stations, around 40 stations in Delhi. And regularly, almost every year, we conduct research studies. And 2016, IIT Kanpur did a source apportionment study. TERI did in 2018. IIT Madras, we did another study in 2018. And even presently now, we have signed an agreement with IIT Kanpur to do some real-time source apportionment studies, and in which we are going to establish one super site on mobile laboratory and several unmanned spatial monitoring networks. The main cornerstone of the action plan has been the hotspot strategy in Delhi. So since we got a rich network of stations, monitoring stations, we kind of identified around 13 hotspots based upon the high level of PM 2.5 and PM 10. And these hotspots are being given special priority when it comes to enforcement. And there is a clear strategy action plan as far as hotspot is concerned, which ranges from Malba, garbage, repairing roads, traffic congestion points, mechanical sweeping, water sprinkling, and night patrolling as well. So use of IT is another strong point where we actually have a very exclusive Green Delhi applications, which is a way of crowdsourcing grievances of the public related to air pollution. So, I mean, this has been very successful. In the first year, so far, we have received around 40,000 complaints, and we are able to resolve 90% within the resolution timelines. And manpower, we have an exclusive program management unit, and we also have a Green Delhi Fellowship program who also work on air pollution mitigation measures. So this year, this winter has been very special for us because we had a very targeted kind of an action plan called the Winter Action Plan, and which is actually a collection of previous action plans, learnings from past years, directions from different judicial courts, and also to combine the essence of various directions of CAQM, roundtable conferences. So this is a very exclusive kind of a winter action plan which we designed this year. And it had all these 6 pillars, if you just see on the right: open, burning, C&D waste, road, vehicular pollution, industrial pollution, and firecrackers. So, I mean, just run through open burning. There have been 550 enforcement teams which are put into action this winter. Landfill fires, 24/7 deployment of personnel, and around 65 trommel machines deployed at the landfill sites. And if you can look at the substantial reduction in landfill fires in the last 5 years, there are around 150 fire incidents every year in 2016 or 17 or 18. Now it has come down to less than 5 landfill fires in 2021. And we're also looking at the biodecomposer technology with the help of IRA PUSA, and we sprayed around 4,500 acres of paddy fields in the Delhi state. And regarding C&D, we also have issued detailed guidelines on the use of anti-smoke guns in C&D projects, having built-up areas of more than 20,000 square meters. We also have a web portal called Dust Pollution Control Self-Assessment Portal, in which construction sites have to be registered on them, and they kind of self-audit on the kind of mitigation measures they take on site. And we also have a toolkit for measures that needs to be taken at the C&D sites. This has been launched by DPCC. And regarding road dust management, we monitor all the mechanical road sweeper machines, around 70 machines across the city, and their planning route, the timing of the MRS have been all planned in consultations with the RWS. And we also have an online real-time GPS dashboard to monitor the live operations of MRS. And similarly, with water sprinkling machines, vehicular pollution, Delhi has been aspiring to become a 100% CNG run public transport, and we have done so far. Around 9 lakh CNG vehicles are registered and they run on the roads of Delhi. And regarding the EV, we have an exclusive EV policy, and the e-vehicle adoption has been made mandatory for all government departments. So any new vehicle purchased by a government department, it needs to be mandatorily e-vehicle. And substantial improvement in public charging infrastructure, around 191 charging stations. And also for the private charging station, we are offering fiscal incentives too. And regarding industrial pollution, around 1,600 industrial units have been identified, and they have been switched over to PNG. So none of the industries in Delhi, they run on fuels which are unapproved or which are not environment friendly. And every season, winter season, around 4 months, we are very strict on the ban on firecrackers and the enforcement part too. And another innovation which we have done is a smoke tower, which we have installed last year, October 2021. And the first interim report has been submitted by the IIT Bombay. And based upon its success, its efficiency, we will look into whether it can be replicated in other parts of Delhi. And campaigns like Switch Delhi, red light on, Gadi off, to kind of encourage people to switch off their IC engines in the red lights. So, what has happened? So this interaction has been very effective, and when we analyze how 2021 has fared in comparison with 2018, 19, and 20, so you can see if you combine the good, satisfactory, and moderate days, 159 in 2018, 182 in 2019, 227 in 2020, which is because of the lockdown. But when you look into 2021, it's 198. So there's a substantial increase in good, satisfactory, and moderate days from 2018, 19, from 159, 182 to 198. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Jayachandran, for outlining the wide array of actions being undertaken in Delhi. I would now like to ask Polash. I know NRDC is working in a number of Indian cities, but also has a lot of international experience. What do you think are some of the lessons that cities can sort of share with each other, and that we can learn from the experiences elsewhere on how to tackle air pollution? I don't think we can hear you, Polash. I don't know if that's just a problem for me or for others as well.
Polash, same here. We can't hear you.
How about now? Is this better?
Yes, it's better.
Right. Yeah. So I was saying thank you, Priya, and I thank TERI as well for inviting NRDC to speak at this esteemed panel. As far as the international experience is concerned, I think it's been referenced here before, but internationally successful approaches to air quality management are guided by scientific evidence-based processes that put public health at its very center. So both those factors are very important, and I'm very glad to hear that and see that this is increasingly the case in Indian cities. In fact, evidence-based decision-making provides durable, long-lasting solutions, which in this case would be a holistic, long-term and regional approach to air quality management. For instance, as an example, in California, the Air Resources Board works with 35 local air quality management districts, or AQMDs, to work to manage the air quality through a process that includes a continuous process of monitoring the sources of pollution. Why I am highlighting this in particular is that I'm wanting to highlight the importance of having resource allocation, both in terms of knowledge management as well as in terms of capacity, especially localized capacity that the cities and the air quality management districts have adopted. For instance, detailed inventories of sectoral sources are continuously updated, and each local district has a mandate to adopt air pollution regulations in consultation with the regional authority, which is the CARB. Each of these districts has a dedicated team of professionals who work across sources on transport, industry, power sector, area and stack emissions, as well as fugitive and transboundary emissions, which I think Dr. Ghosh as well as Dr. Jayachandran mentioned. Very important sources as well. So apart from California, NRDC has been working in several cities in China as well, using a similar evidence-based approach to policy. And the monitoring of health-based indicators is essential to reduce the documented sources of emission in a phased manner and to measure the demonstrable results to assess progress. So while regulatory capacity and technical knowledge of effective long-term sectoral solutions are crucial challenges, measurable performance indicators need to be tracked in an iterative manner. So we need to do this not just once, but once every couple of years. And I'm very, very happy that both Surat and Bangalore have developed these detailed emission inventory and source apportionment studies. But this only demonstrates the need to digitize such inventories and to have a periodic assessment of these as well. So dedicated capacity in terms of scientists, public health experts, meteorologists, policy advocacy professionals, researchers is required. Much more, I would say, at the local level than at the regional and the national level. And why I'm saying this is that while the NCAP calls for an air quality management cell at the level of the local government, the city government, very often we see that this cell either does not exist or where it exists is not sufficiently stuffed to analyze the data that is available. I'm very glad that the organizations mentioned in this panel are assisting the states and the cities. But in the long run, a scientific evidence-based process would mean developing the in-house capacities to to assess this information and to proactively intervene on sources across the spectrum, on transport, on power plants, on energy, etc. As seen from the international evidence, the improvements in air quality have benefits far beyond just mortality and morbidity reduction. Increases in productivity, reduction in healthcare expenditure also leads to an increased economic output, as evidenced by the EPA in the case of the United States. In the US, it is estimated that every dollar invested in air quality management since 1970 has given a 30-fold return in terms of increased economic output. Why I'm saying this again is that while the cost of additional capacity is seen as an added cost to the city, it does have significant economic benefits in the long run. The recent Finance Commission grants are a key example of this, and one of the intended uses must be to augment long-term capacity as well. That's all for now. Thanks, Priya.
Thank you, Palash, and thank you to all our panelists. I was hoping we may have time for another round of questions, but I think we are pretty much at time. So I thank you all for joining us and for all your insights. I think a few key themes have emerged. I think the first is just the importance of partnership in tackling this challenge. We will need collaboration across sort of different levels of government, national, state, and city. We will need collaboration across different government departments. We will need collaboration between government and the private sector and civil society. And also we will need the kind of participation of people. And I think that level of collaboration will be essential. And I think the second theme that has emerged as well is how we sort of track progress. I think we're seeing a lot of momentum and action. And now I think that we have these baselines. It's important for us to also sort of judge the effectiveness of these actions and be able to track progress and refine what we're doing on that basis. So with that, I would like to thank all our panelists today and the TERI team for organizing this session. Thank you all. And I know there's a few more discussions around air quality through the course of the summit and also related issues. So hope you can join us for those as well. Thank you.
So, sorry, Priya, I'm Devang Thakur. Unfortunately, I lost the connections while my turn was there. I would like to mention for a minute to convey my sincere thanks and regards to TERI for conducting a source apportionment study for the Surat city and come out with a very detailed comprehensive report of air action plan for the Surat city. Very important and good deliberation. Two things I would like to mention. I'm sorry, I'm at the last and I couldn't join in between. Airshed approach, as said by TERI, I mean, we welcome and we will seek your continuous guidance at SMC level, how we can progress for that and make such projects, I mean, digitize in the inventory and other things that has been spoken, how we can make a part into our say, routine evidence-based attenuations of the air pollution. I mean, it's a very important thing, and how you can have better outcome by, I mean, implementing low-hanging fruits. Two, three technical things that we would like to say when working with our scientific organization like TERI, that like Delhi, I mean, they have very advanced early warning systems in terms of models and other things that is not there into say non-attainment cities of the Gujarat. If we can have some primary tool early warning systems, as you mentioned that industrial contributions is the highest in the source apportionment study that have been done by you. I mean, it would have a good policy or regulatory mechanisms for a regulator like board to give a warnings or stop certain processes or to have a control over say emissions of the flue gas. I mean, if we can develop that. Moreover, I mean, I mean, grid of say sensor-based monitoring stations dovetailed with say manual monitoring stations and continuous ambient air quality monitoring stations. As we understand that we cannot afford to have large numbers of continuous ambient air quality monitoring stations in the cities. So if these all the layers can be say integrated, and if the satellite based imagery and other modes of measurements which are very advanced, if they can be say integrated together to develop a whole mechanism or a system to have a better I mean detection of even say micro action plan or the hotspots or integrating with the other plans of the city, like say their transportation plan or other development, urban development plans of this cities. I mean, 4C are very important, as you said. We need to create a coordinations among various departments, capacity building and competence of the officers working in the area. I mean, it is also equally important that the organization like WRI Shakti Foundation and Bloomberg, those who have jointly prepared a report with TERI, can be of the, I mean, immense use to Surat Municipal Corporation or a State Pollution Control Board. And ultimately commitment of all, it is required as a fourth C. I thank you, TERI, for inviting us into panel discussions, and we are really grateful to all four organizations for preparing such a comprehensive report. I mean, it would be a roadmap for Surat municipal corporations for attenuation of the air pollutant, particularly PM10 and PM2.5. Thank you once again, and I'm really sorry for not having connectivity in between when my turn was there. I thanks again to all the panelists and TERI for inviting us. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Over to you, Pooja.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very insightful session. With that, we have come to the end of the event, and I would like to thank all the esteemed panelists for their extremely informative sessions and valuable time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
everyone.
Thank you.